when you're in a toxic relationship, yes, the grass is greener on the other side. You may be alone, you may be sad, you may be poor, your life will start over again. It says that when you get out of a bad relationship, it takes you around 7 years to rebuild your life. I'm on year number 6. And
so you're ahead of schedule.
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing the rainbow, right? And I can tell you that no feeling that I have right now compares to what I had then, right? I thought that I was invincible in this relationship. And these are kind of the key triggers that you feel when you're in a relationship. When it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Trust me.
This is Gotham Investigations, and I'm your host, Jeff Giordano, the scorned woman of Miami. But what happens when a woman is scorned by another woman? You're going to hear from one of the members of the LGBTQ community that hired Gotham Investigations for revenge. You must see this episode. We have a special guest with us today, Vanessa Baez in the house, a member of the LGBT community who first came to Gotham Investigations for revenge. Vanessa, welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
And tell us what happened in your relationship that you were scorned and how that developed and what happened there.
Well, I think like most relationships, it started off fine and dandy, right? It was, I don't know if I'll call it love at first sight, but there was definitely a lot of attraction from the beginning, which I think is, for listeners now, maybe a telltale sign of a toxic relationship, but that'll be a different episode. It started off very passionate, and I think with that passion came some insecurities, right, on both ends. There was like a level of mistrust, I guess, from the beginning that I decided to shove underneath the rug. But
would you say mistrust on your side or her side?
I guess both sides, right? So on hers, it was really mostly directed towards like infidelities. And on my end, I just always felt like she had an ulterior motive, right? I didn't know what it quite was, but I just always sensed something off there. I'll say it now, like definitely listen to a woman's intuition, trust your gut. That was something that I think back then I kind of didn't do, just because every time I would confront her, we would have a conversation. I would ask her like, hey, why are you taking pictures of me while I'm doing this? Or, hey, why do you have copies? Why are you ordering yourself copies of my credit card? Or, hey, why do I have another copy of my license ordered to the house? And it was always, I got to give her credit because she always came up with the best excuses. Oh, well, hey, we have to have a backup pair just in case something happens. Or, hey, you never know if there's an emergency, right? So those kind of things kind of started, I guess, letting me know that something was off. Not quite sure what it was, couldn't put my finger on it, but ultimately, I guess the story took a turn for the worst.
Now, you were the breadwinner of the two of you at the time. Maybe you could explain a little bit to us of what you do, your line of work back then, and what you kind of inner gut told you was her ulterior motive.
Yeah, so I guess the main reason for me being the breadwinner back then was that her immigration status in the country hadn't been solidified, so she didn't have a work permit or anything like that. I mean, I guess we all know, being from Miami, there are many things you can do without a work permit, but, we kind of established, hey, I'll go to work, make some money, kind of take care of the household. Construction has always been an underlier for me, project management in that capacity. And I was comfortable doing that back then because, again, I to some degree was under the impression I was in a loving relationship. We ended up getting married, right? And also, which will be revealed later when we began the investigation, was that I realized that she started building a case on me from the beginning of our relationship in order to solidify her immigration status. So it's kind of unfortunate, but, you live and you learn.
So when did you finally realize that your relationship was turning south there on you?
I think, initially I realized things were going awry when I started getting tickets in the mail, right? So unpaid parking violations, red light tickets, that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, I wasn't driving the car then. What's going on? I actually had my own alibi. And I asked her, hey, what's going on? And, I think she kind of came clean, but in a nonchalant kind of way, like, hey, it's not really a big deal. I just didn't want to get in trouble for it, so I kind of wanted you to take the heat. I figured you're in a better position to do so. And, I don't think that's right. It doesn't matter what kind of immigration case you got going on. I don't think that kind of shoving your legal troubles onto somebody else is the way to go.
Now, there was an incident where I believe like narcotics or drugs were found, I think, in your vehicle, but they weren't yours. There were some of hers because she was like a little addicted to drugs. Can you kind of explain that a little bit to us, her addiction, what she was addicted to?
Yeah, I mean, I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. She had a dad who had problems with addiction, struggled with addiction while she was growing up. And I think that for a large part of her life, she kind of wanted to stay away from that world. And then when she moved over to Miami, I think, there's no party like a 305 party. And she picked up, a habit. And unfortunately, she was pulled over for an unrelated incident. I guess the first worst part is that she gave them my license information, right? And then after that, she willingly consented to a search of the vehicle, and they did find illegal substances in the car, to which then she or I, however you want to look at it, was arrested because they realized that the ID was not in fact her. So it kind of got my name up in a jam, but I guess that's how we met, right? So
all these things started to develop, and you realized that things were not going, according to plan. Your love of your life, your spouse that you're married to, things were just not going correctly. And then started with the infidelity, but not on your side, but on her side.
Well, what a disaster, this relationship, let me tell you. I think that I guess there's a saying also, whoever smelt it dealt it. I think she was so hyper-focused on accusing me that it turned out being that she was the one who was, engaging in extramarital activities, if you will. And, I had a hunch, like I'm telling you. I think that from the beginning, I felt that there was just something off in this relationship. Lots of distrust, lots of lying, and not good lying. Because I think you're able to catch a liar immediately. And, I realized that, yes, in fact, she was sleeping with one of my really good friends at the time. So, yeah.
So when you came to Gotham Investigations the first time we met, you were pissed. You were like inside torn up. You wanted revenge. Here she's, you're the hard worker of the family. She's getting credit cards, under her name as well as yours. She's spending all this money. You're getting in trouble for traffic tickets, violations, drugs that were in the vehicle and car that you had nothing to do with. And here you come, we meet, and you want revenge. And I told you that that's really something that we do not do. However, we do have a demolition team that we subcontract to go after individuals that do seek this kind of self-gratification. And I can remember part of this demolition team, they went to like the corner totem stores, they went to Walgreens, and they started getting subscriptions to magazines out of every magazines, and they subscribed her to probably over 40 different magazines to start attacking her credit. They also applied for several credit cards in her name to go after her. The vehicle that she was driving was actually in both your names, so we had permission from you to put a tracker under the vehicle. And pretty much she couldn't move without us being on top of her. We hired a individual with a drone. That we've done this on other cases, but this particular case was just to show harassment.
Yeah.
I can even remember she called the police on us, and the individual that we used is licensed, and we kind of says there's nothing wrong with Vanessa, who was looking for real estate in the area to invest in, that she's
the
actually...
good old real estate photography assessment.
Real estate photography.
Yeah.
So this created inner panic with her. And she was just at the beach one time where we called the police that she was with her significant new other that she was cheating on, and she was having a beer and some vodka and drinks. And we called the police saying that... it's an open container. I'm there with my child, and how could anyone be there with liquor?
Yeah.
And she got cited for that. So the revenge was forthcoming. It was just over and over again. But then one day you said, Jeff, enough is enough. I can't live my life in revenge. Tell us a little bit what happened and the route you took after that.
Well, look, I think the revenge component comes from hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, right? And I feel like she systemically, during the course of our relationship, planned all of these things against me, which I think I felt like I was sleeping with the enemy to some degree, right? Unbeknownst to me. And, when I was able to realize that these things were going on, I wanted payback. Right? To some degree, right? And that's why I think that my initial goal, right, in the revenge phase was to make her feel uncomfortable, to make her feel followed, to make her feel watched, to know that, we were onto her every move, that she couldn't keep doing things without consequences. And I think that the end of that relationship turned into a beautiful new relationship, which is where we met each other, right? And you turned me on to this side of the law, right? Which I had always had an interest in, but I think, look, part of the PI work that we did on my specific case was not only beneficial and nurturing to me in the fact that First of all, I was able to build a legal case against her, right? So I had an unsurmounting amount of evidence, which was beneficial to me. But then in addition to that, I think that it brought me closure, right? Which was very helpful in me being able to move on and kind of get my life together again, from the disaster that I kind of created and was a party to. So, coming full circle from that, and then being able to meet you, having you help me with this case, then made me feel, hey, I kind of want to be able to do this for other people,
So there was a time where we sat down, and it's a lot different when you say, meet me and meet us. It's different when you deal with somebody as a client, and we're dealing with a mad, scorned woman there, compared to finally your heart said, that's enough. I'm going to get out of this relationship and move on. Where we did sit down and we say, Vanessa, this is the best thing you could possibly do is let go. And that's one thing that women out there and men just don't know how to do in toxic relationships. If you could say one thing to our listeners and viewers out there of when do you know to walk out of this relationship and how can you not look back, what would you tell them?
Oh, man, I think that's the hardest question you could possibly ask. I think many times before I left the relationship, I had contemplated it, and I wondered what if and what would my life be like if I left this. And I think what stopped me many times was that I was scared, right? I was scared about the what if. I can't promise you much, but I will definitely tell you that it's always better on the other side. So when you're in a toxic relationship, yes, the grass is greener on the other side. You may be alone, you may be sad, you may be poor, your life will start over again. It says that when you get out of a bad relationship, it takes you around 7 years to rebuild your life. I'm on year number 6. And
so you're ahead of schedule.
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing the rainbow, right? And I could tell you that no feeling that I have right now compares to what I had then, right? I thought that I was invincible in this relationship. And these are kind of the key triggers that you feel when you're in a relationship. When it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Trust me. After lots of therapy, some from you, and lots of closure, I was able to kind of put together the fact that when you're in one of these toxic relationships, your brain experiences this release of emotion called limerence. And, it's in the calm that you're in a good space. So fight through it. The things will get better for you, right? You're number 6.
Actually, we find in a lot of other relationships, yours didn't have physical abuse, thank goodness. But we've had, women in the past and cases in the past where they're actually beating the spouse and stuff like that. And what we found, talking to different psychologists and stuff like that, is that women stay in those relationships, sometimes not that they want to, but they're actually building a computer programming in their mind. So it's the first time they're beaten, they get so emotionally happy. It's kind of like when you do, I don't want anyone out there to try crack cocaine or anything like that, but I went to DEA school myself when I was in the street narcotics unit, and it sends off pleasure sensors in your brain. Yeah. So what happens is they always seek that high that they never got before. So in a case where a woman is beaten, actually their mind, when it stops, it sends off pleasure sensors. And whether it be a male, whether it be a female, they're on their best behavior a few days after that till the next beating comes. And when the next beating comes, when it stops, their mind is just at ease and comfort where those pleasure sensors go off again. So sometimes they look forward, not forward, but to the next beating just to feel that pleasure of it being over. The next few days of peace.
Look, I don't have firsthand experience of this directly. I will tell you that in my personal relationship, we did rough each other up a few times, pushing and shoving. And I can tell you that what you're saying does resonate with us because, after we would shove each other around, I got stitches once.
I remember, I think you even had an incident when the police were called.
Yes,
that
correct.
You could touch on that
correct.
A little bit, but you even said, hell with you guys.
Yeah.
A little unfortunate incident.
Unfortunate incident, absolutely. So after we would have these kind of tiffs, right? And it circled around, well, oh, you don't love me, or oh, you're cheating on me, all this kind of, bullshit, really, which just so everyone who's listening and is clear knows these are not signs of a healthy relationship at all whatsoever. However, when this kind of stuff would happen, afterwards, oh, I love you, baby, yeah, never again. And then, we would experience like a period of closeness until the next tiff came about.
Kind of like a honeymoon phase after a violent incident would occur.
Absolutely. So, I do understand how your brain can release certain chemicals after said things happen. But, to touch on, the unfortunate incident, she actually beat me over the head with a pan. And I guess due to the size difference between the both of us, I was bleeding. Nothing happened to her, but the cops were called to our unit. And, it's unfortunate. I was the one who ended up in handcuffs. But, sad tale. We cleared it up. And, thank God we had a significant level of evidence that I was able to use, in court to kind of defend myself and to shift the blame a bit. But yeah, it was, I couldn't have run away soon enough. So,
and that's why it's important for our viewers and listeners to know documentation is the key. If you're in a physical violent relationship, don't just let it go. Even the slightest documentation with the police department can come back to help you later on when the tables are turned on
Absolutely.
You and you get arrested. And that's what came back to help you.
Absolutely. Even if it's an incident report, hindsight is 20/20. Yes. An incident report, write a letter, take pictures, have all this stuff. If you are in an unhealthy relationship, I think that kind of preparing your arsenal of evidence to be able to defend yourself in the future, right? Not necessarily to cause harm to the other person, but to build your own case. Look, it helps in even getting a restraining order or a stay-away order. If you have a documented history of abuse, it's definitely of benefit to you to showcase that when filing for legal documents.
So the intriguing thing is, you came to our office afterwards. Everything was done. You said, "Release. Enough is enough." You sat down, and when you came to our office, we were actually having a meeting with an attorney, and we asked the attorney, "You mind?" She's one of my clients. Sits down, and when he left, you said, "What was that about?" And I says, "Well, we work for a lot of defense teams," and you were kind of intrigued by that, and you said, "Well, what do I need to do to become an investigator?" And I said, "Well, Vanessa, you'd be a fantastic investigator because you were very detailed throughout this whole case." A lot of times we find, even as an investigator, is the cases are handed to us by the spouse. They know what they're doing from morning to night. They just want the justification and the photographs to throw it in their face. So we sat down, we walked you through the process. You did your internship, and you did your internship with us. And till this day, we still reach out to you. You do investigations for us, and you know, being from the police department, we have a lot of investigators that are police officers, but there's nothing like the bull out of the gate, and that is you. You helped us on many cases, many surveillances, many follow-ins, and you kind of just blend it right in, and you were tremendous. Not only in your I want to say, hidden secrets of not being identified during these investigations, but also your documentation was phenomenal. Your reports and everything were phenomenal. And now you seek a new vision, and that's you want to become a police officer.
Yes.
And as I told you when I started, I applied in Fort Lauderdale, turned down. Hi, Aaliyah, you missed this. Miami-Dade County, well, you never took the test for this or that. You completed everything, but you didn't deal with the public enough. BSO this. And finally, I got hired with Miami 30 years later. So I told you those experiences, and I said, Vanessa, if that's your dream, do not let go.
Yeah.
And you're experiencing the same thing. You applied with Miami, you applied with Washington, D.C., and now you're pursuing Chicago PD
Yes.
with one of the most violent crime rates in the nation.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the city that, first of all, it's the city that I hold near and dear to my heart. And we have to thank the city because I actually went to school there for journalism, which helps me with my great reporting.
Now that explains it.
So I think it's the city that I could probably contribute the most to. I have been in Miami for quite some time now, post-college, and I think that, it's the department that I could see myself in the most, also one of the better paying ones. So, we'll see what ends up happening. And I definitely welcome and thank you for your words of wisdom because they have kept me going, right? It's not an easy process. Everyone tells you to be patient, which is not one of my virtues. But I'm working on it. So we'll see. Hopefully, the next time we sit down and do one of these, I can have some good news for you.
And one of your first cases that we did was kind of intriguing for you as well, because you never knew this when I was working with the city of Miami, that I was also used sometimes as a police psychic. This is stuff that the police department don't advertise. They use it periodically, and they try to see if they can get leads from it. So this was a missing person case, and this is going to be one of our episodes together that we did. And this was out in the Naples area, and this was a juvenile that went missing in her teens that was actually kind of like taken by another family member.
Yes.
And between the two of us...
The kidnapped runaway. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Between the two of us, I was feeding you information from vibes I was getting in that house, petroleum, this and that. It didn't mean anything to me, and you found that individual in a gas station. It was just a record, phenomenal teamwork that both of us put together.
Well, I think we make a good team, Jeff.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, I kind of had I had heard down the grapevine that you had this skill set, and I didn't quite believe it. And it took us, being on the opposite coast of the state, doing this case, right? I don't remember, was it her sister or her aunt or somebody who had hired us, right? And was in frantic panic, and she was crying hysterically, and you sat down with her and asked her for some items, if she could give you some items, and you went away, did your thing, and then you kind of called me, something, some pump or something, petroleum, and I was like, what is this man talking about? And I kind of kept driving around in the selected target area that we had discussed, and boom, at the gas station, I feel like I have an inkling that I take a double take, and I was like, oh my God, this is the girl from the reports. And, lo and behold, you're right on it.
Well, we don't want to release too much because we're going to release that in one of our upcoming episodes of the psychic detective part of Gotham Investigations. And we certainly appreciate you coming out, expressing your story, because it's going to help others. And I can remember one of our other clients that we've had sent me like a thank you and dedicated like a song, and it was a Simon and Garfunkel song, Bridge Over Troubled Water. And I was like, I hope I'm not the next Fatal Attraction here, but I was like, what does that song have to do with me? And it was kind of like she's highlighted some stuff when she sent me like the final payment, and she did tip. We do accept tips, by the way, out there. If you do hire us, we certainly would appreciate every dime coming our way. But she highlighted in that song, and it was, when you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes. And then she put, Gotham Investigations will comfort you. Until our next episode, we're on your side. Are you a fan of our show? Do you like our show? Then comment, hit the like button, and subscribe, or you might be the next one we investigate.